Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Smith, Paraskevia. It's Friday and today we're looking at our second tutorial on noun declinations in Georgian. This time we're looking at words that end in o, a, e and u. Very similar to the previous tutorial that we did last week with a few changes that you're gonna need to know. So if you're ready, let's go. Let's begin with my Instagram poster, and on that poster I had a question. When is a turtle not a turtle? And when is a king not a king? Now, I really wasn't speaking in riddles, but the point was that Mepe means king. But if we look at this person here, if you don't know who that is, that's Tamar Mepe. King Tamar. If we were to look deeply at this is Mani Puli, Ormos Taati, Lari. These all end in I, so not really part of today's tutorial. Tamar Mepe was named a king because she was an amazing ruler and so earned very much the crown on her head and the respect that she has up until today and why she's on a 50 lari note. So let's get back to the question. When is a turtle not a turtle? Ku. Now, if you play chess, the bishop in Georgian is ku tu. So that's when a turtle, a ku, is not a ku. And this is Mepe, when a king is not a king, it's a queen. That's just something funny about Georgian, but where's the grammar, right? So let's go to the bottom. In the game of chess, bishop takes king, but king takes bishop. Kum mokla mepe, mepe mokla ku. I'll repeat. Kum mokla mepe, mepem mokla ku. In this case, I've shown that the one took the other. If I do not use the nominative case for mepe in this case, the first example, it is not clear at all who the turtle took or killed, in this case, mokla, and vice versa. This example taken from chess is a really nice fun way for us to understand not only a bit more vocabulary in Georgian, but just another way of how we have to know when that piece leaves the board in the second case. Mepem mokla ku. Ku, the bishop, leaves the board and the king remains. And so it's just an illustration here inside your mind of the ergative past, the nominative object, and many of the grammar cases that we're going to have to explore today. Slide 2 really is quite complicated, but I'd like you to think about the things in gold first, okay? Because this is what we did last week. We looked at our 7 cases, we took a pudze, kats, and we had to add an I for the nominative, atsi, and then we needed to take it away, and then add another ending, ma, and then add another ending, and then add an I and an S, and so we're adding this I, we're taking it away. Here we've got an A and a D and so on. So we noticed that what we did last week was rather complicated, right? Let's just say that pudze friends, pudze nouns, are just high maintenance. You always have to give and take and play around. But the other friends are very uncomplicated because the Ned group, you don't have to really take away anything and you just have to add one change. So in the nominative, tama, radze, ezo, bu, hair, milk, yard, aeoù. They came to the party, they stay as they are, they ask for nothing. Low maintenance. Indeed, in the ergative, they don't need anything else, just give them an M. Tamam, razem, ezom, boom. That's it, done. So easy, right? Compared to last week, you're like, that was perhaps too easy. Going into the dative case, tamas, just take the M away. It's like giving them a glass of red wine and changing it for a white wine, They already arrived with the water, AEOU, and you give them the M, and now it's later on in the evening, and you just take it away and you give them an S. So Tomas, Rdzes, Ezos, Bus. The transaction flows so effortlessly and quite easily. You just add an M for all of them or an S. Very little changes here. And again, focus on the present constant of the vowels. Technically speaking, using the 3 Ned cases for these 4 nouns, a, e, o, U is dramatically easier than everything we learned last week. So, arapris, you're welcome. But it's Georgian, right? So, let's say we have given them lots of wine. An hour later, things really get messy. So, that's from last week, no? Our pudze plus is is it belongs to the man, katsis. Katsit would be the instrumental case with a man. Now, what's really good is that your A and your E friends, the A and the E, the tma and the rdze, they have lost their vowel. They lost their first drink. And you add the is ending. So, tmis, rdzis. And in the instrumental case, they also lose their vowel. The A disappears. So it becomes tmit and rdzit. So it's not tma'it. It would be amazing if it stayed. Because in the other case, with the O and the U, it doesn't go anywhere. It does actually stay. And in a perfect world, it wouldn't undergo kvetsa, where the vowel is removed at all, and they would just be vowels right to the bottom in each of the lines, and then it would be a little bit easier, but then that wouldn't be Georgian, would it? Now, just to make things even more complicated, with the O, instead of taking the is, they take a si. And actually, they don't always need a si. So, ezo can be ezos. So, the way that you express them in the dative is the same way you could express them in the genitive. It means it is of the yard. Okay? It's kind of like with my analogy in the party that they want to keep the same drink you gave them an hour ago. But you can give them another drink, but it depends on which order. So ezos is actually okay. Sakatvelos, sakatvelosi, of Sakatvelo, or it belongs to Sakatvelo. So the O is a bit complicated, but just go with their flow. And then boo is the same thing. Boo can use the same as the dative, booze, exactly the same. And we are talking about drink, booze. And then boo si. Okay, that's the formula. And so booze in some word order works, and boozy works in another word order. Speaking of that change, the flip, the A and the E take it in the instrumental, just like the ones we did last week. So tmit and rdzit. Yes, they lost their vowel, but they did take the same ending as last week. So on one hand, they got a bit complicated. It's kind of like your friends just lost their phone. And they're like, oh my God, I can't find my phone. But they're like, I don't really worry about it. I always lose my phone. So just give me the same drink as pudze. And you're like, all right, well, yeah, okay, you lost your phone. Here's a tmis. Here's the drink from katsis. And rdzis, you've lost your phone too. You know, and you're like, okay, you always lose your phone. But Ezo didn't lose their phone, but wants a different drink. It doesn't want the same drink as Tama and Rze. So, Ezo ti, bu, ti. Eat, ti. At this stage in the party, A and E, and O and U are not drinking the same drink, but it's the same case. It's just they're different. A and E undergone kvetsa, they both lost their phone, and they were happy with the same drink as katsi, t. But Ezo and Bu, they didn't lose their phone, and they don't want the same drink. So, like real friends, you know? Just dynamic in that way. I hope you get what I mean. It does actually make sense in my head. And then, of course, luckily, the adverbial case and the vocative case, like I said, not much going on here, just add a D. It's the end of the night. They just want a different drink. So here, ats, a, D, you needed an A and a D. Just give them what they did before. They're very simple, low maintenance. Tma, tmad. They've just found their phone. Rdze, rdzed. Ezo, ezod, bu, bood. Yeah, absolutely low maintenance. Just add a D and they've all got their cases and everyone's cool. In the vocative case, again, we know that we can add an O. So, cats becomes katso. So, tmao, rdzeo, ezo. You see, ezo has had enough. Already has an O, doesn't need another O. done with drinking, wants to have one final cha-cha schnapps at the end of the party and takes a v, very fancy. And then bu, buo, or then bouf. And I suppose that would be how I'd like to end the description of this slide, that Ezo already has or maybe has already drunk enough, so takes a nice glass of cha-cha or schnapps to end the night and takes the v. The other friends, Tma, can also have a v, but it's just a bit fancy for them, and they're like, that's really old school, my grandfather used to do it, it's not for me. It's possible, but it's a bit out of date. Same thing, rdze, rdzev, and for bu, buv, adding the v is not necessary and very infrequent generally in spoken Georgian, except for when it's an o, when it's always necessary, because o has an o and feels that in the vocative you gave them absolutely nothing. So they feel left out. So they take this fancy v because that ending makes them feel part of the party. Whereas the other friends are like, I can have an o, or a v, I prefer an o. You got an o anyway, so I'm not giving you two o's, and so on. Got it? Good. Slide 3 brings the knowledge from last week on what we've just heard together on a standard noun declination table from a Georgian perspective. Here are our 7 cases, and of course the names of those cases. These are the Ned cases. This is nominative. And so really the idea is that you put in a word, you push it through the system, and you come out with this list. So let's do puli, for example. Pool is the pudze, money. So puli, pulma, puls. Pulis, pulit, pulad, pulo. Right? We know these are our pudze, nominative e nouns. Here are debi nouns, our AEOU ones, ending, they bring already a vowel to the game. Here we today looked at rdze, so rdzis and rdzit. Same ending, right? We said that they lose their phone, regularly. That's the kind of ones that they are here. We focused exclusively today on the a and the e, like rdze, and tma, for example. Here, uk'etzelebi, we today looked at ezo, okay, and ezo, the o isn't lost. Uk'etzelebi simply means that there is no change, there is no kwetza, the activity didn't take place. So ezo keeps the o, ezo si, ezo ti, right? It belongs here. We looked at this column with ku, so o and u within this column. And that actually can apply, Georgians can do this miraculously. I have to literally write it and go back to my tables to get it done, but step by step we learn them. 2 hurdles which I had to get across. Number 1, rvino. Rvino should be here. So I thought rvino si, and I couldn't be more wrong because rvino undergoes kwetza on the o. So it's rvin, and then it takes this ending. So it's rvinis. Rvinis, it belongs to the wine. And then rvinit is the instrumental declination of rvino. So it loses the o and occupies here. Weird. Get used to it. The other one is dro, man, dro, drosi, right, lives in this column, right? Dro comes to the party with the o, doesn't behave as we would imagine. It is an exceptional exception. Dro does not undergo kwetza, but it's drois and droit. It's so funny that it's almost philosophical that time, dro, flirts and does what it wants with these tables. And so those are the 2 main exceptions that you need to know, because they're so regular and they're so frequent that what it did to me was it made me think that these tables don't work. But then, of course, you get told they really are exceptions, and we have that in English too. So let that settle in your head. Take a good look at it. One thing I like to nerd out a bit, so on a geeky perspective, look at this word here, sachelobiti. That's our nominative. Chemi sachelia deo. That's my name. Name, the Latin nombre. So nombre means name, sacheli means name. So in fact, sachelobiti, if we really look at it, has exactly the same root as nominative. I wish it was as straightforward with the others, but we'll get to that in another slide, I think, but not today. One more slide and let's practice what we've learned. One final push. We've got another party. You're hosting 5 friends. You've got Katsi, Mama, Mepe, Dro, Ku. These are the people that are coming. This is your Pudze friend who you have to give the E to. Katsi, Katsma, Kats. Katsis, Katsis, Katsad, Katso. Mama, father. We know we're going to have Kwetsa. So, Mama, Mamam, Mamas. Mamis, Mamit, Mamad, Mamao, and Mamav. Remember this V, again, doesn't necessarily need to be there. Mepe, Mepe, Mepem, Mepes. Kwetsa, Mepis, Mepit. Meped, Mepeo, Mepev. Mepeo, I think, imagine you see Tamar Mepe and she just appears. I would be like, Your Royal Highness, Mepeo, how can I serve you? Just to give you an extra rendition of what these vocatives can do. Dro, we just studied it. Dro, drom, dros. Yeah, so consistent with our Ned. But dro, is, dro, eat. Copying everything. They're all drinking the same drink. Dro, du, and drov. Yeah, already has an O, doesn't need a second one. And then ku, where we started is where we're going to end. Ku, kum, kus. Right? Kusi. Remember, we can also apply that because this does not undergo any kwetsa. So it could be just simply kus or kusi, depending on word order. In our instrumental case, kuti, and then kud, and then kuo, and then kuf. One thing I will say is that this instrumental case is actually going to be the topic of next week's class. The point of that being is that we have to explore all of them, but this was the one that I thought was easy, and then it confused me, and then it was easy again, and I struggled with it. And so next week I'm going to present you how I conquered this case. That is the end of today's tutorial. So as promised, next week we're going to be looking at the instrumental case, the 5th case, in a lot more detail. So have a nice weekend and I'll see you then. Bye.